Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm just going to give everyone a few minutes to join, and then we will get started with our AMA. I hope you have some really good questions, and make sure I'll do some housekeeping and tell you how you can ask them, and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. If you have joined us, let us know where you're from in the chat. It'd be good to see who's here, where you're all from. While we just let everyone in, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. I will go through some housekeeping, do some introductions, and then we'll get started. We've got a lot of people joining in today, so this is going to be hopefully a really great session. And with that, I think I will get started. Please encourage your colleagues, if they haven't joined yet, to come join us, and we'll get started. Hi, everyone. So today, the BrowserStack team from Developer Advocacy group that I manage is going to be doing a session on to vibe or not. That is the question. This is going to be an interactive session, so please do kind of think about your questions. We're going to be kind of asking each other our opinions, and we'd love to hear your opinions as we go through this session. Firstly, I just need to go through some housekeeping items. Today's session will run for about 45 minutes. It all depends on like what we discuss, but it will be no more than an hour from us. The session is being recorded. You might have noticed that when you joined. All participants have been muted just to enable us to present without interruptions. And afterwards, the recording will be made available to all attendees. So since you're all muted and this is an AMA, you need a way to ask us questions. In Zoom, there is a panel called Q&A. I'm going to be moderating today's session, so I will be making sure that if you do have questions, that we try answer as many as possible. There might be times where I group some questions together because they kind of are around the same theme, but if I get it wrong, again, feel free to just leave a comment in the chat or in the questions, and I will make sure that we kind of try get as many of these started. So with that, let me stop the share and we will go to this. So firstly, I just want to kind of get everyone introduced, as I said, I'm David. I had a developer advocacy. I've been BrowserStack for 5 years and kind of in the testing space for a lot longer than that. I don't want to show my age. I'm going to let Puja introduce herself and then we'll move on to Manish.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm part of the developer advocacy team. I've been working with David for 5 years as well. So we've been together in this journey for a while. So I've been in the testing space for about 5 years, and developer advocacy is relatively new. But I'm also a part of the Selenium um, technical leadership committee, so you can also find me hanging out there sometime.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey everyone, so I'm Manish. I recently joined BrowserStack as a developer advocate, and I have around like a decade of experience into the testing space. I have worked with like multiple clients and companies to setting up their QA processes from scratch and building the automation architecture with like different tools. And happy to answer your questions today.
Awesome. So with this, some of the things that we say are maybe controversial in kind of nature. A lot of what we are saying is based on our opinions from kind of doing some things. As developer advocates, we do have to code still to kind of create demos or kind of helping out in the open source space, as Puja kind of said that part of our remit is interacting with a lot of open source projects, so supporting them where we can. And so we get to try vibe coding, as the youth like to say. As I say, I'm a bit older than everyone else, so I'll probably getting the terminology woefully incorrect, but it is kind of important to see what the whole hubbub is. And so vibe, as I say, vibe coding is gaining traction. We're seeing a lot of developers lean into it. And sometimes specifications can be quite rigid. Puja, you spent a lot of years as a developer. And like one of the things I think we need to kind of set some rules around, like when it comes to this, is like what defines good code, right? Like so that we can then go if AI is doing bad or is good. Like what would you consider good code?
So I think the list of good code is long. So if you Google it, you'll find a long list of what is a good code. But I think ideally what we taught, I think when you come to school and we're learning how to get into the industry coding practices. So I think good code is clean. It's minimalistic in a way that you can comprehend easily. It's readable, right? Um, there are good legible comments, but you're not overdoing it. You're following the correct code styles, linting, common patterns. So if you're using a language that has certain common patterns that are better suited to do the task you're doing, so you're kind of following that, following the language constructs that you have, right? So if you're using an object-oriented programming language, you're used to creating a lot of classes, but then when you go to a non-strictly type uh, language, you shouldn't be using too many classes because that has a different way of doing, like, functional programming is different. So these are just the things that on a high level, but I think from a long-term perspective, it's also how maintainable is it? Is it secure? Are there any major threatening bugs that can, give you a pager duty call in the middle of the night where the hell is broken loose? You kind of don't want those situations. So I think it's a large universe of what a good code is.
Okay. And so Manish, you've done a bit of coding. You've been like, you're the new person. You've kind of seen a bit of what we've been doing, and you've seen, and kind of you joined as AI was really growing in other spaces, and you've kind of done contractual work. Have you found kind of AI is actually hitting those principles that Puja is saying, or like what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I think like there are many aspect of like doing the coding part. Will it like scale better or how to optimize it? So one thing is there like it is just not something we can directly ask from the AI. It goes towards like multiple iterations. If we ask for a single code or you can say single program, AI can give a program, and when we say optimize it, it can like reiterate it and rework on it and give us another program. So we should have a sort of knowledge what is like more optimized way, or does it need optimization or not. It totally depends like how far you can go with the AI part. Initially it can give you a like a good code, but if you don't know is it a good code or not, you will not be going to the another iterations and like doing the reprompting for it. So it's more about like how you can do better prompting and how deep you can go to achieve your results. And should it be like only the first time, or should it just like one single prompt can give you a kind of like headshot? So it totally depends. So AI cannot be like first short reliable, but surely it can help you out to get there into the journey of like writing the good code.
Yeah. No, it's all code is definitely a journey.
Yeah.
Some journeys are more painful than others, right? It's the way I like to look at it.
Yeah.
But maybe I've just been really unlucky in my career. But it's always kind of these harder problems. And so like one of the concerns I have, and like part of it is I always wonder if it's the fear of the unknown, right? When I kind of have these concerns, is that like when people are writing bits and pieces of code, vibing, doing whatever, right? How do we know that them as engineers, right? I'm an engineering manager, so I always kind of worry about what my engineers are doing. It's like, how do I know that they're actually ensuring quality, right? Like quality assurance is like the big industry, and we've got this whole shift left, so developers need to be doing it, and now they're vibing. You're like, how do you know it's actually doing what you intended to do? Like, who wants to take a stab at that first?
I think I'll go. So yeah, this is hard, right? So now I think the definitions of even good code has changed, right? So according to the way AI is advertising it as, it's the future, it's going to replace engineers. Zuckerberg saying that AI can do as good as most mid-level engineers, and there's all sorts of things there, right? So now, like you said, it's a good code now becomes what is fast because AI is fast. So people are like, oh, it saves time and that's productive. And I think as a process, sometimes the effectiveness has gone out of the window. Or at least that's something people are not considering. But I think it's a very valid question where you say that how do we pay attention to quality? Um, I think it's important to understand that just like vibe coding, vibe testing is not the answer to this, right? So I know a lot of folks, or there are a lot of resources on the internet that kind of guide you towards this path. So you can use it towards assistance, but you'll always realize that there are things it misses, right? So it's if you try, and I've tried it. So I tried to do a talk for TGD with AI where I tried to ask, I gave them a premise and I'm like generate test cases, and it made up APIs and inputs and outputs and things like that. Um, so it yeah, it did things that looked right at a very high level, but when you zoom in, you're like, no, this doesn't exist. It hallucinates a little bit. Then there are missing assertions. It does only happy parts where we've totally forgotten your nulls, your edge cases, your thinking of the product. So yeah, when you're thinking, if using AI, it can probably help you verify if you're building a product right, but it might not tell you if you're um, building the right product. So it can't tell you your user requirements. It can't tell you your market fit. It can't tell you how well it will do qualitatively when your users actually going to be using it. And again, quality assurance is vast. So I think the manual intervention or the human expertise has to be at the very core with our traditional practices of us doing a test, the different layers of quality, going through all the layers of testing. I think that is very mandatory to still go that route.
So we've had our first question, and I think I've kind of, or maybe my definition is wrong. So the person's asked, how would you define vibe coding? Is this more using AI at the beginning to generate code? Or do you see it vibing as also part of refining code and doing all of those things, and everything in between. So should we be making a distinction between it's like vibe coding is only about like prototyping, initial setup, or is it like the whole space? Manish, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, so I think like that can be pretty perspective. So for me, it's more about like how you can use the AI in different aspect. Sometimes it can be just like brainstorming, what can be a good idea to like architect your, you can say, code. What kind of like frameworks do you use? What kind of libraries you are going to use it inside your code, and it can be directly like just giving it a problem statement and asking for a direct solution. So for me, it's more about like sort of intern with me or a second mind with me, and just throwing my ideas and getting the things which are already onto the internet, and help me with the research part. If anything exists there into the onto the internet, I don't have to go to the you can say like Google and open up every tab or open up every articles written over it. It give me a sort of like gist, but I can't like rely directly onto that part because one thing like happened to me a lot of time. It's more on like how AI trained onto the data. So whenever I ask AI to write something for the future, like anything related to dates, it always give me wrong day for the date. Because and when I like uh, deep dive into it a bit, that's because it always came up with the date of last year. So whenever I say like if I have asked it like a week before, write something for the 17th June, it might have given me the day of what is in 2024 rather than
Yeah.
2025, because that's what the data say. So
Yeah.
there's something like we need to be aware of like how things work inside AI also.
Yeah, and so my opinion on this is I see vibe coding as kind of both. There is times where you just look and it's like, let's see how it would optimize, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
vibing, right? And it could be from the smallest changes like function to be what I want, to hey, let's prototype. And so one of the people I've been watching with great interest and what they're doing is Jason Huggins, so the creator of Selenium. He's got another idea and he's been posting on LinkedIn about how he's vibing this all together. And it's a project called Valet. And one of the funny things, he's been vibing everything according to him. He's not so happy at the moment about vibe reviewing because he's not happy with the quality of the code. And I think this goes back to the original thing of what is good code, right? And I think we should always be going back to that. And like both of you said, hallucinations or kind of just plain wrong sometimes, right? Like the dates are wrong or things like that comes really into it. But we should like, how could we improve the trust, right? Because like AI, there are some really good use cases in the development space for kind of vibe coding or AI generating. Like, what can we do? Do you think to kind of make our lives easier and kind of more correct and more secure and higher quality? Puja, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think so. I think this kind of goes back to the part that we always need the human expertise, right? So anytime we're vibe coding, I think it's having a very strong sense of, I think what we've had for years, that you are responsible for the code that you push to the main branch, what gets merged to the main branch. And I think that is a mindset that almost every individual needs to have. And like, I think most of the teams, the way they're structured, there's a lot of thought diversity, there's experience diversity as well, right? So um, I think the typical process of where what you write, obviously it has to be manned by the person who wrote it, and then go through the code peer review process that very much exists today, and then have your tools do the additional layer of checking that needs to be done, because And I think we need someone, say, if you're doing content or like building, you need to do fact checking. I don't know if you all read about this, but there was, so I think Chicago Sun, they did like we need a list of, it's summer, so these are a book of fresh summer reads. And the writer used AI. He claimed that later he used AI. So AI hallucinated. It produced a list of books. So it produced a list of authors with books they never wrote. So it just spun up books and it was in the newspaper, and people are going hunting for the books. So you can imagine these kind of things, these kind of things can happen, right? So like that's why I say you need someone to probably fact check certain things, right? So you need someone to manually use their human expertise and verify, and also probably say, at least from, because I come from an engineering background, you have a structure. You have your team lead, tech lead, you have a principal engineer, you have an architect, and they have a lot of context in their minds what goes in reviewing. So I think that process needs to be taken with all seriousness. But yeah, and also plus you shouldn't, I think one should be highly interested in reading code. So even if AI is generating code, um, read it, right? So I think that skill is very, very important at this point.
Oh, definitely. And I come from the generation of like view source code of browsers, right? That was the way to learn how to program, right? Like you just like do this. Oh, okay, this is cool. Let me learn, do this, and way before dev tools and you could play around with things. So, I think I think that's actually really important, and I think it then leads on to actually one of the next questions that's coming from the audience. And please, folks, do add please add your questions, because there are some really good questions coming here. So this one is, as a product designer, I'm overwhelmed by the influx of Gen AI tools, including vibe coding tools. To whoever said that, I think you're not the only one. So kind of, I think everyone's kind of feeling that at the moment. Is there value in designers learning to vibe code? Is the first question. My gut feel is no, but I think everyone should learn how to prototype. Is the way I think and from that side of vibe coding, yes. Getting it into a fully fledged product, I think this. I think we need to figure that out still. Anything else you want to add on that, folks?
No, I think that makes sense. I think so. Learning to vibe code, uh, I'm not sure how much of a learning there is, to be very honest, because you're going with the flow. That's what it kind of taps on. But yeah, probably if you want to integrate, say, AI into your workflows or AI into your practice, then you might need to figure out how to loop it in, where it makes sense, where it doesn't, and how to take it with not a pinch of salt, but like a bucket full of salt, the outputs that come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like also it depends. Like you need to first measure, is there any issue? Like just fitting the vibe coding or AI into it, like space where it doesn't require, it makes more mess rather than like doing things with the AI. So AI is just like more how we can make the things faster. So first we need to assess like whether it needs that speed or not. So that's another way of like looking into it.
Yeah. And then the next question is, are there any tools that you would recommend for people who are more design focused? I don't think that one could actually recommend a tool, because as Puja said, the idea with vibe coding is like you like load up Copilot, you load up a like VS Code or whatever, and then you just like start creating prompts until you get what you want, roughly. And then you kind of hope that like the code actually compiles. That's the other thing, right? And I think it's a hard one, really. But I think like I'm not design focused. As an engineer, I did a lot of like back end work for most of my career. Or like when I was working on like Firefox, I was doing it in the browser, but never the UI, right? It was always kind of the back parts of Firefox to make that work. But I I do go into like ChatGPT if I want something like a small image created that I have no idea, like it could do something quicker and far quicker, neater than I could ever do, right? Because it's not my style. I can go like I roughly wanted this, and I'd probably spend hours just focusing on like, should I move this 1 pixel up or down, right? Where it's like, oh, this is done, right? But as a product designer, like you would fixate on those things and go, actually, I should change these colors to this because that gives a different feel to how people would use it. And I wouldn't necessarily know that. So I do think it's important we still have our niches really in play.
Yes, and I think that loops back to what I said when I said verification versus validation, right? So if you want to validate that the product you're designing meets the user eye, it might not be right fit. But say if you have questions around good practices, wanting to learn to pick up a new tool to do it, or some just brainstorm in a certain way, yeah. But I think that seed thought of creativity, the idea has to come from you.
Yeah. So the next question we've got come in, and I really like this one, because it was actually the next section that I was going to move us on to is, are there any technical guardrails that you've been applying to your local dev loops or CI to safeguard the AI created code when you're vibing? So this is something I've been looking into a lot recently. At my time when at Mozilla, part of the work that I did, I was part of what was called the automation and tools team. And we didn't do any testing. We built the tools that the CI was using. And we maintained everything from version control to the full CI system. And one of the things that I'm always concerned about, because I can see the huge scary parts of it, is supply chain attacks, right? So now you're vibe coding, you're going, hey, can you use this? And one of the biggest things when it comes to supply chain attacks is it's called a homograph attack. So it's a character that looks very similar to the other character, but like technically in Unicode, it's different. But when you're but then you're just searching, you go, oh yeah, I think this is the right one. Now you're assuming that you're actually picking the right thing, and you could by accident insert crypto miners into your code base or backdoors into your system. And that one, I don't know if there's a lot of guardrails, Ross, around this. It's something that I've been looking into quite a bit. There's a fantastic like security engineer. I'm going to mispronounce her first name, but I think it's Desedi and Desedi Susanna Cox, I think it, and she does a whole thing around AI and security, and I think it's really fascinating to go look into. It might also scare you off AI, but at the same time, people could make those same mistakes that AI could be doing. Is the problem that I'm seeing. The other thing that I think I've seen people doing is trying to insert MCPs. So MCP is a model context protocol, and they're just like little servers that people can install, and they do very specific things around AI. And so the LLM will hand off to the MCP to finalize some of those things. I'm sure some of you all have seen that. And it's quite interesting that we like that whole space, because again, with MCPs, if you just randomly install it, again, you could by accident hit another homograph attack, because it's just like an npm package, and that really scares me. And I think there's some really really bad things. Someone's just put into the chat, and if you're watching the recording of this later, we'll make sure all the links that we do put out and others put in are shared out again they're all really, really scary. It's been happening in the Python world for a while. It's been happening in the JavaScript world for a while. And there are some things. Do either of you want to add on top of what I've been saying?
But I think, no, you've actually covered good ground there and actually learned a thing or two out of it.
Yeah, and I think like there's one thing for the guardrails part. Like now that there are tools who will review your code, and when you're writing your code with the AI and only AI is reviewing it, you lose the touch like what's happening inside. And when anything got broke, now you don't know like whatever is written, and no one have reviewed it. Now you don't know how to fix it because no one in the team have written it. So that's gonna be a like issue maybe in the future, where when we will be like more reliable onto the AI side for like writing, reviewing, and everything doing through the AI.
Yeah, and then I think there are agents where they review it, and for the issues they say they think it auto fixes it and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I think it's very important uh, for the human to enter in all the places that they've been all this while and thrivingly so, to be very much there and have those so-called, I don't know, now traditional practices very much intact.
Yeah, it's um, it's kind of scary, but at the same time, like I think the whole security problems and that it's just growing exponentially, and then like I think they would be there anyway. It's just a
Yeah.
new avenue for
Mm.
coming in.
Plus, there are lots of early studies. So the studies, I think, I know Stanford early studies where they're like, oh, you know, AI doesn't produce secure code as one would expect, even if when explicitly told so. But somehow
Mm.
the developers have like 3x, 4x the confidence that, oh, they have now secure code because it's AI generated. And I think the whole concept of where it's trained on large data that's available on the internet, it could be a garbage in, garbage out thing as well, right? Oh,
Yeah, definitely. Um, awesome. So there's two questions here that are. Oh no, sorry. Oh yeah, there are. Um, they're kind of related, so I'm kind of merging two questions. Like people wanting to get into vibe testing or kind of testing type of thing in automation, and kind of like how would people get into looking at that? Like how, from a QA's point of view, how would you, what to look for and things like that? And then are there any tools? Because like everyone's coming out with AI tooling at the moment. What can people do?
Manish, what do you think? I know you have a
Yeah.
lot of experience in this space, and a lot of diversity of experience in this place as well.
So one thing I would suggest is like start like learning through AI rather than like just depending onto the vibe testing concept and all those stuff. If you would like how it comes to like when you start using the vibe thing, either in you can say development or testing, you are not getting the whole concept of like sometimes like we do in our jobs also, when we have to do something or when we have to write some script, we use the AI to write that down, and sometimes we don't know the concept and we just run it, it works, and that's good for us. So try to learn from it rather than just relying on it. Otherwise, like when things could break, it will take more time to fix it rather than building the things by on your own. So it depends. Like a lot of the time, you are using the AI just to save your time. So our main aim is like I think for whole this vibe thing is to save time. And if you don't know what's going on inside, and if anything break, if it is taking more time to fix it, then the whole purpose just go away. So I would say just try to learn how it is getting done, even if you're using the AI automation, anything. But if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you can't fix it when it got break.
Yeah, I think another trait, AI will produce more bugs than the humans can actually catch up
Yep.
to at that point, and that will be counterproductive.
Exactly.
Yeah, uh, I I agree on that. I think that is the general concern that I have with this. I came from QA into engineering, a lot of kind of the and that I always focus on how to go about testing code. Like I'm a big advocate of TDD, and I try see if vibing can help me get into that because sometimes it's not always obvious to know where the interface should be or how to look or how to inject into it. Especially if you're doing um, in languages that you're not necessarily the most confident, right? Like I don't do a lot of Java. Kind of, it's something that my brain just when I start looking at Java, kind of I get irrationally annoyed by it. Right. It just it is really funny because I spent a good part of my career doing like .NET and .NET and Java are effectively the same, right? There's a lot of similarities, and it's just like I look at it and go, "Oh my god, it's not making sense." And so yeah, I like to do it that way and see if there's any way that I can kind of go, oh, how would I go about doing this? And it might give me more insight into how the code looks, and then I go, oh, I can tweak this, I can work with this now.
Yep. Yeah, it's also like you need to know what's your destination. Like similarly, like maps can help you to navigate through the things. Like it can make your easy journey, make your journey easy. But if you don't know what's the destination where you want to go, maps can solve nothing. So similarly, like you need to know like what you want to do with the AI. Then it will help you to like do those things in like a bit easy manner.
Yeah. Uh, So I'm jumping a bunch of questions to the audience. I will come back to those because there are some really good ones. But this one by Edward here, the person who originally coined the term vibe coding described it as not too bad for throwaway weekend projects or quite amusing. It was never intended to write production code. Do you think that people now mean when they talk about vibe coding or something that like, or is there a distinction? I kind of feel, and maybe I'm like I've just been really unlucky in my career, but there's a lot of times where my prototype or throwaway code stayed in production for years, literally years. And so this is where I like why for me when I see vibe coding, it's like, yeah, like I know that this is like there's going to be startups who'll be like, I've literally just thrown this all into production. It is fine, right? Um, am
I
I
think
luck? Am I just being unlucky in my career, or is this like a like
no,
it's happened everywhere?
I think I don't know. Like I just like I want the audience. I know they can't speak, but I just want you to think: how many times did you create a POC that stuck? Yeah, and probably in a proof of concept, you would have probably removed the hard-coded credentials or things like that, and just optimize that part. But how many times has the core logic just been around? And I think more often than not, it has been around from what I see. Right, what starts as a proof of concept continues for the same tree. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that makes
it's more
sense.
of a base. Like we started as a POC, and it's more work as a base now, and then we grew up onto that, and it stays there
Yeah,
most of the time.
yeah, yeah. Plus, I think even it's just probably it's me, but just I think with how busy our lives are, I think we get only so much time to wipe code for fun projects or
Yep.
for our dream projects that we want to. I think we often get to do, or we often as humans try to do everything we want to learn and squish it in our career blocks. right? It could be a new technology, vibe coding, integrating AI, or anything. Right?
Yeah. No, my worst one where my proof of concept stayed in production for years is kind of just as Appium was coming out, I wrote something similar to Appium for testing Firefox mobile. And I kind of strung together a whole bunch of like things that were out at the time. And I made the API kind of WebDriver-esque, which is, and then I think it went out of production about 8 years later. Like it got maintained and added to, and it was like, and I handed over from kind of an intern. So to Edward, maybe, like I say, maybe I've just been incredibly unlucky in my career, but a lot of times proof of concepts become production code quite quickly.
Yep.
Right. So I think so to start up your question, I'll read it out, but I think we've kind of loosely answered it already. I think vibe coding only makes sense when you understand the code and its implementation. Like if you know best practices in Java and then you need to recreate that thing in C#, right? As I was saying earlier, right? Like I try get it to help me with my interfaces with TDD, and there's times where it helps me visualize some of the things, and then I go from there. So I think that's answered. Is there anything else we want to add? If not, I'll pick another question.
No, I think we've covered good ground.
Yep.
So this one, as a manager, I'm kind of, and my kids are getting to the age where they need to start thinking about careers, right? So is like, what about new generations of junior developers and testers? How do you see AI tools, vibe coding, impacting early career stages on their learning and expertise? I think this is a really important question that I don't think a lot of people is talking about at the moment. So I really love this question.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's something that worries me as well. So if you're looking at it from a learning standpoint, great. I think if you're learning a new technology, you want something explained. AI does a very good job when given the right context and you try to understand something. So I think it's a great way to learn. So for learning, it's good. But unfortunately, I've also bumped into college students in the elevator of my building that, oh, we have a college essay due tomorrow. Ah, don't sweat it. We'll chat GPT it. And I was like, I was like, okay. So that's where in your education academic space, you actually want to be learning and not making your life faster or easier, then it kind of loses meaning. So I think it's a long process that has to be kind of inbound to use AI just as a tool, just like how ID is a tool. But when we're interviewed, we're expected to know other fundamentals. So I think that's got to stick.
Yep. I think like as far as you know, like what's inside it, like as like Saurabh mentioned it, like then it's fine until unless like you just done your job with the chat GPT and you don't know what you have done, then it's gonna be an issue.
Yeah, but I think for junior developers, additional point is that it's also important for them to have good mentors,
Yep.
um, good leads who are kind of guiding them through, good senior developers who are kind of guiding them through and showing a different lens to how to use these tools or how to or what to be wary of. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So great question. This one I think is kind of similar to the security ones, but it's from a different angle, and I think it's important. Does the use of AI have an impact on data protection? Right. So earlier we were talking about security of software, which is kind of true, but a lot of security of software is actually security of data.
Yep.
And I'm again, I have concerns, but I've already voiced my concerns. Do either of you want to add your concerns?
No, I think those are legit concerns one should be worried about because Yeah, I think there could be different channels through which such security problems can come up with data that we're not even aware of, and it's not even being tested at. And even guardrails don't exist, right? It's a total different domain at this point.
Yeah, and I think like Samsung had a case probably a year before where the thing they are developing is got leaked because some people are like using ChatGPT to like build that stuff, and it goes on to the public side, and then it's sort of a kind of like data breach. But I think like in future it will be more, the LLMs will be more running into our local systems, which can help a bit into the security layer, as we are not using the something on the cloud. But we gonna never know whether they are using our data to train it or not.
Yeah, plus at the same time, I think now as the models, they try to make them smarter by giving them more context. So they have these
Yeah.
memories where everything you've typed, where everything you're discussing, it's there. So that's part of your data, right? You might be talking, say, I work as so, and you'll give it a prompt. You might be saying that I'm traveling to so and so country, give an itinerary. It's a you are kind of that information is going out there in ways you probably realize or don't, and is being used as well already. So
Yeah. And as someone who lives in Europe, I think kind of there's always a lot of concern around user privacy, user data. And so some of these things could easily be leaked out. And if you're creating things and you don't necessarily understand how kind of what PII is, things like that, and then it's things that is always ever evolving, and laws are not keeping up with AI. Not that I can be aware of when it comes to these things. So it's an interesting space, and I think kind of like the security of like people's personal security. I think kind of this is an interesting one to definitely keep an eye on for everyone. Right, I think we're coming close to time. We've got one more question, and then I'll see about wrapping up. And so thank you to everyone who's kind of stayed with us. This has actually been really, really fun. So the final question from Stefan is the biggest concern he has about using AI tools in coding is how can you have a flow where AI is helping you write code tests, but still you can always control the AI did the right thing and the correct thing. Sometimes after getting good results from your prompts, you might be less careful with reviewing things later. Incredibly valid points, but validating is always important as AI does transformations and transforms. Wait, but validating always that AI is doing validating what AI is doing transforms in a day of like we're just doing reviews, right? This is the vibe reviewing that I mentioned right at the beginning, like Jason Huggins did. Vibe coding, very happy, hating vibe reviewing, right? Not cool. Are there any tips and tricks on this? I think this is a space that needs to be looked into a lot more. I think a lot of people have opinions, and yeah, I don't even know where to start. But like, Puja, do you have?
I'm not sure about tips and tricks. Like, so I think white coding or this is great to a point where you need something set up, like again, something from scratch. So, right. So I think how many times we try to set up a new project in a new language and get stuck on just setting it up. That's the frustrating part. But you get the dopamine hit where you actually start coding, or you have a boilerplate and you tweak it to break something, and you're like, okay, I did that. So I think everyone kind of wants to work at that point. So reviewing is no fun. So I also think that integrating AI into your flows needs to be done mindfully, because sometimes it can be more productive. It could be more draining than productive, right? So you do like a few prompts, you get a good result. Do a few prompts, you get a bad result, and then just frustrates you. So probably AI is not necessarily the answer to solve all the coding problems or practices or even making it faster. But I don't have any tips or tricks, to be very honest, because it really depends on what prompt and problem you've given, right? You give it a simple thing, add 2 + 2, it can do it. I give it like 100 page or 100, I don't know, classes or something to go figure something else out, it will break. So
Something you said there just triggered a memory. Like, I kind of think people put a lot of effort into when they're like evaluating new vendors, right, in software or whatever, to kind of, does this tool hit my use cases? And I think a lot of people just go, oh, Copilot's just there in VS Code. Like, do I need it? Should be good enough. And I wonder if people should be treating it as like any other extra vendor now being added to it, right? I've done numerous talks where people, like, I've shown people you can move from one testing framework to another, but if you don't follow the fundamentals, the problems are just going to follow you to the new framework in the future, right? And I wonder if that might be another way to look at it.
I think
Yeah.
fair, because everything engineers do, or even any company for any tooling, there's a lot of thought, right? Or before you choose which IDE to give licenses for, what CI tool do you want to use, how you want to log your statements. Like, oh my God, the amount of thoughts people put in, how do you want to log your things? So you're absolutely right. I think that's a good food for thought.
Yep. And also, it's more of a, like, sort of like hit and trial kind of stuff. Sometimes, like, recently, like, I asked ChatGPT to write a demo for me where, like, some UI test cases using Playwright for a demo website. It does it like decently. All I just have to, like, replace the selectors. Everything works perfectly fine. Just replace the selectors and it started working. Similarly, I asked for a sort of like generating a newsletter with the news links and everything, and all the news links are hallucinated. By first, like, you can say first view, it seems like very genuine link, but just clicking it, it's going nowhere. It's just 404 not found. So it's more about like hit and try to check out like what things are like working with the AI stuff and what are not.
Yeah, and just to see where using AI makes sense. New projects
Yep.
make sense. Repetition makes sense. You needed to copy
Mm.
something, duplicate it. All right. But probably we don't want to get to a stage where it replaces us and us having to review that code all day long and that context switching is driving us crazy. No,
Yep.
we don't want to hit burnout because we're talking to a bot and that has frustrated us. That is exactly not the point.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you both for this, and thank you everyone for your questions. I've got one more thing that I just want to put up. So there's going to be a poll question. Feel free to answer that. I won't be seeing the answers. And that. One thing, please join our Discord community. We can carry on the conversation there about vibing, not vibing. Just the QR code takes you to straight to Discord. You can just sign in, do things there. We also put details of any of our meetups, any conferences. We hold testing tips Tuesday. So we do all of these things on the community. Everyone is more than welcome to come join us. We do appreciate everyone who is there. So please do join us. And then with that, thank you everyone for kind of joining us today. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you soon.